Like that we could fairly say that the film for which you are most recognized is a film in which you're totally unrecognizable, and that's Mask. True?
Yes, that is a little ironic, but...
Is it the one people cite most readily?
It's the one people remember the most, yes.
Is it the most meaningful of the things you've done to you on film? Let's leave the stage aside.
No, not really. But it's so far in the past that it's sort of like picking up an old yearbook and looking at it. I have fond memories of it, but it doesn't hold any deep meaning for me now.
Did it at the time?
Oh, yes. It meant a great deal to me at the time.
Career-wise, or as an expression of craft?
Well, both. First, as an expression of craft, I thought it was a wonderful script, and I was very moved by the story. We had no idea when we were making it that it would make any money or be successful. We thought it might be a cult film because it's so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surprise.
Yeah, the young boy who had this disfiguring disease, his real-life mother, who was played by Cher, was on the set through most of the filming, right?
Yes, Rusty. She was on the set while we were filming. It was terrific because if I had a question, how would your son hold himself physically during an emotional time, she would tell me. She would give me the answers. It's like taking a test with having the answers right in front of you.
Did you feel a special responsibility because of her being there with a watchful eye?
Yes, I felt an enormous responsibility because this is a person who actually lived. And I wanted to do justice to his life, which is hard to do in a 2-hour film. And especially with the person's mother there watching you.
From an actor's perspective, is there something liberating about getting into almost a different body? I mean, clearly this was not your face. You're under some 20 pounds of prosthetic devices or whatever in order to create this effect. Did that take you outside yourself in some way?
Well, in some way. I didn't find it liberating. I found it much more constricting because I couldn't use my facial expressions. And I had to find other avenues of expressing emotion through my body. It was difficult. It was not an easy film.
A danger there to play it on the surface for the easiest emotional effect. I mean, obviously there's going to be a tremendous amount of sympathy for this character right from the start. And you could achieve a certain response from the audience just by playing it one-dimensionally and playing it for that sympathy, but that's the easy way out.
Yes, it is. We took the hard way out.
In what ways?
Well, Peter Bogdanovich didn't want it to be a very surface, simple, disease of the week movie. He wanted to go much deeper than that. And we tried.
I read where you had to sort of mediate disputes between Bogdanovich and Cher.
Oh, goodness. Well, they were two proud, talented lions. And it's no secret that there was some tension on the set between them. But I loved them both. I got along with both of them. So they would often come to me and I would, oddly enough, play the peacemaker, which somehow resonated with the role in the film in that the boy would make other people at ease, even though he was the disfigured one.
All right. Well, welcome back, ninth graders. Okay, now we have 2 new students with us in homeroom this year. First, we have Miss Nancy Lawrence. Where are you, Nancy?
Where are you, Nancy?
Hi, Nancy. Wow, thanks a lot.
Our other new student is Mr. Rocky Dennis, also in the back.
Wow, thanks a lot.
The first film you did was Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes, it was, and it makes me laugh just hearing the title.
Why?
Because it was fun. It was like a party that you would have at high school. It really captured that sense of anarchy and fun that most people associate with being a teenager.
Was it representative of what other film experiences would be like?
No, unfortunately not. I thought it would be. I thought, this is great. You make a film and everyone eats together and you go to parties and you dance, and it was just it was like an extended party.
I think this one's on you, dude. Who's got the Buku Dolores today?
Uno dinero.
What have you got, Mr. Buckman?
I got a cigarette.
I got Uno Nicolette.
Hey! You guys had shirts on when you came in here.
Well, something happened to him, man.
Come on, Spicoli, just put the shirts back on. You see that sign?
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
All right. Learn it. Know it. Live it.
Well,
What did you learn from it? You had a good time, but what did you learn?
I learned never to speak up in dailies. I went to dailies once. Sean Penn used to go to dailies. That's where they screen the day's work. And it was the first time I'd seen myself on film. And we were sitting in a room with the producers, and the film came up, and I went, oh my God, that's terrible, I'm terrible, don't use that. And everyone was nudging me, saying, shut up, don't speak.
Is it true that you had the Michael J. Fox role in Back to the Future?
Yes, it is.
What happened?
Well, I used to have a great answer for this, that in the sequels, they would go back in time to the point when I was in the cast, and it would all become explained, but I can no longer give that answer. What happened was the director fired me.
Why?
He didn't like my work.
So they were well into the filming, or right at the start?
We were pretty far into filming, yes. He was very nice about, well, as nice as you can be when you're firing someone, but he said that I wasn't giving the performance that he wanted for his film, which I can respect.
How big a disappointment was that for you? You had to have a pretty good sense that this was going to be a box office success.
No, actually, I didn't. And I try not to think about how a film might perform at the box office. I think that's detrimental to performing. But it was devastating to me. I was a young actor. It was probably the worst thing that can happen to you in your career.
Do you ever get over, and when I say you, I don't mean just you individually. Does any performer, you think, ever get over the fear of being rejected by a director, by a casting director, by the audience, by critics?
Sure. I think you do. I think people do constantly if you're at all healthy. I have, just in the fact that once you've been fired by, a huge boffo movie, what could be worse? What could happen to me in my career that could be worse than that? And somehow I survived that. And now I have, I think, a much better sense of myself, and I no longer have a lot of those fears that I once did.
So probably a good thing that it
Ultimately, yes, difficult medicine at the time, but...
What was the next thing you did right after that?
I went back to my acting class with Peggy Fury and Bill Traylor. And I studied for a year, and then I went to Europe and did 2 beautiful films that really meant something to me, and got back on the horse.
2 films that wouldn't be familiar to American audiences?
Probably not. Haunted Summer with Laura Dern, where I played the poet Shelley, and Manifesto.
Is it always useful to go back and study? Could you see yourself going into acting classes now or 5 years from now?
Yes, I easily could. Yeah, I think it's very helpful.
What do you get out of it now as opposed to as a younger performer before you've established any kind of reputation or have any kind of body of work?
Well, it's a non-pressure environment to try things. It's similar to why I like to do off-Broadway plays. It's not dependent upon the critics or an audience. You're not doing it for a career boost. You're doing it to try on a different role or a different character and see how it feels.
of change.
And we're back with Eric Stoltz. See, they're all out there. However many there are at this hour of the night, they're all out there. There seems to be...
They should be in bed. It's so late.
And they will be in 10, 15 more minutes, but they're fascinated with what you have to say to this point, so they're forcing themselves to sit upright in bed so as not to drift off.
Right.
I note some sort of cheerful discomfort in being in this kind of situation.
Well, I'm on television. It's uncomfortable being on television. You got cameras and you.
Boy, and I could really discomfort just about anybody.
Yeah, I'm not at ease without a script. I like to have a good script because when I'm left on my own, sometimes I say embarrassing things.
To this point, you haven't. I think
Good.
you've covered your tracks pretty well. You told one of our producers that you consider yourself to be a walking contradiction.
Yes, well, I'm constantly disagreeing with myself. And when I'm uncomfortable, I smile, which is a little odd. But I am a...
So I'm mistaking friendliness, actually discomfort and being ill at ease, I'm mistaking that for friendliness.
Inside, I'm raging and angry and about to storm off the set.
And filled with disgust and contempt.
Exactly.
And covering it with a thin veneer of superficial friendliness.
A pleasant demeanor. Yes, it's like I'm at a party and I really am having a good time.
And you're talking to someone you despise and hope never to see again over
Right.
the tinkle of cocktail glasses, and soon it'll be over.
Exactly. It's acting.
Boy, this sure makes me feel great, I'll tell you.
And I'm sure I'm not the only guest that does this to you, Bob.
Probably not. Probably not. But you've come right out and admitted it.
I like to be honest.
So you've gotten it off your chest.
Yes.
We've cleared that barrier. What's the greatest contradiction in your life?
In my life?
Yeah.
Well, I love to work, but I'm incredibly lazy at the same time. To me, it's a constant battle with myself. I would like to take job after job if I love the work, but there's nothing I would rather do than not work.
Yeah, I read in some of the write-ups about Memphis Belle, which of course has an ensemble cast, that one of the things you liked about it was you felt it was a good film and working with David Putnam and whatnot, but also you didn't have to carry the ball that much because you're one of 9, 10 guys.
Oh, it's terrific. Ensemble work is the best. You have days off. Other people have big scenes.
On the other hand, you're doing a stage play now. You've done a lot of stage work in the past, and that's every day or every night.
Yes, but when you think about it, the theater has the best working hours. Because once you're done with rehearsals, you go to the theater at 7 o'clock and you're home by 11.
What in your mind would make for a great role for you? How do you evaluate that?
I look for something that I find very interesting and very far from myself. Something that's different from my own life. Oftentimes something I don't know much about. A chance to explore different areas of my own personality.
So would the handsome, seemingly benign George, the boy next door type from Grover's Corners in our town, would that be unlike you?
Very unlike me because, as I said, deep down I'm very angry and bitter and full of rage. So playing a normal character like that was quite a challenge.
What's the source of this rage?
I think it's being on television.
So really, it could be relieved. By 2 o'clock Eastern time, I sense a turning point for the better in your life.
Yeah, probably. I'll be much calmer.
But in general, what is it that puts you on edge? An edge is a good thing for a performer to have.
What is it that makes me uptight?
Yeah, what is it that's got you edgy?
That gets me edgy? I tell you, I can read the newspaper and get enraged or upset. Just what's happening in the world.
Do you need it to perform?
No. No. I can, if it's a well enough written script, I can take it from the words.
So the way you feel on a given day doesn't necessarily affect the performance?
Oh, yes, it does. It does, but that often is dependent on what I've eaten or who I've seen, who I've come in contact with.
Citibank is good.
And down the road, which is about to open, it's had some previews and is about to open, as we tape. You play a serial killer.
Yes.
And this journalistic couple comes to visit you with the notion of writing a book about your experiences and the grisly murders of 17, 18 women, whatever it is.
19.
19. I was close. I was in the ballpark. What's the bottom line story here?
You mean, what's the meaning of
What's
the play?
the meaning?
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
All right.
But I'll tell you why. I don't like reading interviews or seeing actors say that this is what this means, because then I get angry at the actors. Why bother to go and see it? If a play or a film is rich enough or complex enough, it has 2 or 3 different meanings, and an audience should be smart enough to take what they can from it.
One thing that's pretty clear is the revulsion that this couple feels at their growing indifference to the details of these murders. They start out like anybody else, horrified.
Right.
How could somebody do this? What element of the human soul would bring somebody to this? But then as one detail after another is revealed, and as they start to work on this, a certain armor, emotional armor, I guess, gets developed, and it doesn't affect them quite as much.
I think that happens when you turn on the evening news. If you're constantly bombarded with the horrific shots, you have to build up some sort of defense against it. Or even walking down the street in New York. You know, you constantly see homeless people begging for money. Eventually you reach a point where you don't see them. And it's horrible, but it's true.
And the guy that you play, the serial killer,
Yes.
can't be played with some sort of obvious villainous exterior. It's
Right.
the sort of matter-of-factness, the old banality of evil thing that,
Well-
that makes the guy all the more terrifying.
Right. It was interesting in my research for it. The most famous serial killer probably in recent time, Hannibal Lecter from the film Silence of the Lambs, really has nothing to do with reality. Most serial killers are very personable, nice young men that you would not suspect, like yourself. You could easily be a serial killer.
Yeah, and for all you know.
You just might.
But the same could be said of you.
Yes.
You with the smiling exterior and the dark interior.
Yes. Well, yes.
Or perhaps Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy's, I believe, was Lee Blessing who wrote the play, based a lot of the play on Ted Bundy, and he was very charming, would get girls to come and help him, you know, out of his car, and then he'd kill them.
If you play someone who's this dark and this treacherous, can you leave it behind? Or does it take a personal toll? Night in, night out, you're this guy.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have very strange dreams. I think my subconscious is affected. I had awful dreams of murdering people and trying to get away from the law. But I'm hoping that they're healthy dreams to have.
But really, do you worry about this? Do you worry about the way a role might affect you?
Yes, I had some concerns taking the role because I knew I read In Cold Blood a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I was terrified for weeks. I didn't want to be alone. I'm sensitive to these things. And I talked it over with some people, and I did quite a bit of research and decided to go ahead and mess with my psyche.
How did you kill Cindy?
With a knife.
And you did this right away, or you...
I drove her to the lake first.
Sugar Lake.
That's right.
How many bodies did you leave in the hills near Sugar Lake?
9. No. 10.
Once you and Cindy got there, did you kill her in the car?
I made her get out. She yelled. No one was around.
Didn't she try to run?
I had hold of her. Are you afraid of me?
Desperately. What happened next?
She tried talking. I told her to shut up.
Were you afraid you'd get to know her? When did you stab her?
Right then.
How many times?
7, 8, I don't know. She fought. I was nervous. I cut myself. Finally, she went unconscious. She made a sound, and my arm was bleeding.
Is that when you raped her?
Is it rape if they're dead?
So she was dead.
When I finished, I threw her down the hill.
Didn't bury her?
No. The animals, you know. Then I bandaged myself and drove home.
How did you feel as you drove?
Scared. Perfect.
Perfect?
Like God.
Here he is, my friends, Eric Stoltz, an outwardly genial young man with some degree of darkness and rage within, and he can be seen off-Broadway in Down the Road playing an outwardly genial serial killer. This has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, time to go. See you later.
Good night.